The time has come for the first episode of the podcast about the Moomin Phenomenon, and it's all about the fans.
I feel like at some point, maybe one day I'm Snufkin, another day Moomintroll. But today I'm the Moomin Papa. But it changes all the time, depending on your situation in life, really. And I am because I am longing for adventures.
We had a little book club at school where you could save up your pennies and buy your own puffin books. And I got this box set of the first 5, which I'm holding now. Well, I did question whether I liked the books because they had that sort of indulgent melancholy, or I'd become this indulgent melancholic because I'd read the books so much.
As a Finnish Swede, it feels that it has been like a part of my DNA. But since I was 10, when they started to make the Moomin mugs, and my mother bought the first one to me, and since that she has never stopped. So always when I have birthday and when it's Christmas and when I have a premiere, she brings the latest ones.
So what are these people actually on about? Talking about being Snufkin or the Moomin Papa, depending on the day? Wondering if you've become too indulgently melancholy because of a couple of books you bought for £1? Having Moomin ceramics as part of your DNA? Have these people lost their marbles? Or do the Moomins just affect people's lives in a way that the rest of us aren't privy to yet? Unbeknownst to many of us, there is an entire subculture built around the unique and curious creatures and characters from Moominvalley. In this podcast series, we will be unearthing and exploring this world, and hopefully we will be able to understand how it has become such a vast, worldwide phenomenon. As much as this is a story about the Moomins, it is also a story about their creator, Tove Jansson, the imaginative little girl who grew up to be a provocateur and whose motto was freedom above all else. We'll be looking at how a petite woman from the far-flung nation of Finland created a world that is both a place where curiosity triumphs over fear, but also where disaster is constantly looming. A world populated by headstrong characters who always dare to ask the hard questions about life. This podcast series will ask the question of why the Moomins still feel relevant in our ever-changing world. We'll be travelling to many Moomin locations around the world, from a unique treasure trove in the heart of Helsinki to Tove Jansson's mythical studio, to a celebrated outhouse in the Finnish archipelago, to the homes and workplaces of Moomin lovers in London. We'll even pop off to Tokyo, Japan. Join us on a 5-part journey through all things Moomin. Part 1, about the fans. Part 2, about Moomin philosophy. Part 3, about Moomin as inspiration. Part 4, about Moomin, the brand. And Part 5, our finale, will be all about Tove Jansson herself. Speaking of Japan, why is it that Moomin has become such a huge phenomenon there?
どうやってムーミンしたかでも結構有名ですよね。Moomin is famous in Japan, and we know it when we were really small, like age 3, 4. I do like because it's cute. The form, it's cute, but the story is a bit scary, I guess. Yeah.
Konnichiwa! Are the Moomins really cute and scary at the same time? But cuteness can't possibly be the only reason the Moomins are so popular in Japan. It's a good thing, then, that we'll be visiting the Moomin theme park outside of Tokyo, known as Moominvalley Park, later on in the episode. They've even got Moomin workouts there. Oof, I need to have a seat now. My name is Jennifer Saunders. Yes, Jennifer Saunders. Yes, Jennifer Saunders, Jennifer Saunders. Absolutely fabulous. Yes, yes. Comedian, writer, whatever. Yeah. Google me. I mean, please. Aside from all that, I'm also a wholehearted admirer of Moomin. I promise to tell you all about that love story in a little while, but in the meantime, let's focus on the Moomin fans, because in the end, this episode is all about them. To understand the influence of Moomin and how the phenomenon seems to get in under so many people's skins, we'll have to travel to a tattoo parlour in the Swedish town of Luleå, located just south of the Arctic Circle. A woman by the name of Malin Tjärnström is seated in one of the tattoo chairs with her arm outstretched, ready to become the canvas for yet another Moomin-themed tattoo.
Now she's taking shape, Moominmamma. So I think the rose bush will take the longest. And Johnny is on the hand.
But hold on a minute. So we're in the snowy north of Sweden, standing in a coldly lit tattoo parlour with walls painted deep green and covered in vividly coloured prints of kitschy dragon motifs and retro pin-up style photographs. Is this really where we discover the meaning and influence of Moomin? Apparently, yes. The vast multitude of places where Moomin's spirit and influence shines the brightest never ceases to surprise us. So, back to Malin and John, who's the tattoo artist working on her arm.
My first Moomin tattoo is also the first bigger tattoo I made. That's in color and not just black. And it's Snork Maiden from the 2008 mug. I chose this motif because she's just so sassy. I like it. And she's such a diva and she's fun. She's strutting along with her little bikini and the bag and the jewelry and her hat and the umbrella. And she's just like, she does not give a fuck. I like her. She's a sassy lady. So, of course, I had to have a sassy lady on my arm. And I have chosen to get tattoos of the motifs from the mugs. Because the first one was from the mug. So I was like, I'm going to keep going. Because there are so many beautiful Moomin tattoos out there. So my second is Little Me. I have her up on my shoulder, where she has the red umbrella flying around. So I made it after my first, or had it made after my first internship during when I was studying to become a medical secretary. And I felt like I wanted to celebrate. So I got my Little Me there. And she's also a sassy lady. She doesn't give a and she does her own thing. And one of the best quotes are from her. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And that's kind of, I think it's a good thing to think about if you're an anxiety-ridden person. That, you know what, yeah, sure, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. So I like that one.
Well, now I wonder what motif I should pick if I ever decide to get a Moomin tattoo. Mimble, perhaps. I did love playing her in Moominvalley, the animated Moomin series that came out in 2019. It was all about having the courage to show your feelings, which was important, especially since my daughter is a fan. But anyway, maybe I'll simply tattoo Tove on my knuckles in a bold font and be done with it. Before we return to the tattoo parlour, I thought we might travel back in time for a bit. More than 70 years back to when Moominvalley and its inhabitants were introduced to the world in 1945, right on the tail end of World War II. It was the year that Finnish author and artist Tove Jansson published her first book about them, titled The Moomins and the Great Flood. 8 more books followed in the coming decades, as well as 4 picture books and a comic strip published in a number of newspapers around the world between 1954 and 1975. As a visual artist, illustrator and author, Tove Jansson appeared almost tireless in her devotion to her creations. Her creative expression evolved and developed up until the last years of her life. Her works were more than just fiction and art. They were a reflection of her life philosophy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. It's time to try to find the first actual Moomin creature. After a few hours of driving through the pitch-dark Finnish roads, travelling east from Helsinki, we arrive at the Pelinga Archipelago. This is the place where Tove Jansson spent her childhood summers, and rumour has it that the first Moomin in existence was graffitied by a young Tove on the wall of an outhouse nearby. Yes, people from far and wide have visited the most famous outhouse in Finland through the years. Kim Gustafsson has a particularly strong memory of one visitor in a sequence of events that almost feels plucked out of one of Tove Jansson's stories.
Now we are going to see Skithuset, the shit house as we call it, or utetuppen in better Swedish. So it's the outside loo that was in it's still working. But nowadays we have inside toilets as well. But when the Janssons were living here, it was the toilet. It's a special design. It has, you sit opposite each other and not in a row as in normal ones, so people could discuss. And as the legend goes, she was sitting with her brother, Prolle, and they were arguing about something, philosophy or art. And she drew a really ugly figure on the wall. And that became the first. It's not yet called Moomin, and we don't know exactly when this happened. Let's go see if we find it. Yep. Here we have to squeeze by the wall for a bit. For a long time, it was all just hanging there on the walls. But the winters are tough, so finally, about 15 years ago, we made the decision to let the museum take care of it so that it wouldn't go to waste. The Jansson family got one copy of the restorated graffiti, and we got another one. It's a little bit slippery. This is the toilet. So these are the replicas. And from when she was really like a kid, she started drawing on the walls. So it became their habit of always drawing on the blue walls. And you can see it's a lot of quotations. Inspirationen, en ljusglimt för stunden, flyktar som solrök förrän hon blivit bunden. I'm trying to translate it. Inspiration, a beam of light for the moment, flies away like fog in the sun before she is tied down. So it's about the artist chasing inspiration before it's gone. Oh, you can see the original really faded picture. They were arguing about something, and then she drew the ugliest little creature she could think of. That might be this one here. And it does resemble the early Moomintrolls with a kind of a much uglier and not so cuddly and round as they became later. It's not exactly tourism, but people do come from time to time. But still, my grandmother couldn't believe it when the president of Finland wanted to see the loo.
Well, good grief. I can't help imagining some queen or president coming to have a look at my toilet in my little house in Chagford. Anyway, perish the thought.
It was Tove Jansson 100 years celebration, and there was a big literally festival in Borgo. So they came with 3 fishing boats, and then they were supposed to go to Klovharun, but it was a bit stormy. And of course, the boat with the president on board, Tarja Halonen, couldn't make it. The minute I could see the boat approaching, like, okay, they couldn't make it to Klovharun because it was too windy. And I was like, please let it not be the president's. Please let it not be. And it was. okay, what do I do now? So I said, maybe if I could give her like a private tour of the old houses instead, much the same as I'm giving you now. And she was like, oh yes, maybe that's interesting. So I found myself with the president's, what's it called? Adjutant, holding her bag while she's in the loo.
While Tove Jansson's creations may have accumulated many adult fans through the years, most take their first step through the doors into Moominvalley as children, and usually find themselves becoming permanent residents all the way into adulthood. One such resident is actor Samuel West, whom you'll probably recognise once you hear him speak. Sam has been invited to the London home of Tove Jansson, a publisher at Sort of Books, to chat about their shared Moomin experiences.
I was probably the age that my elder daughter is now. She's read all the books except Moominvalley in November now, and she's 7.5, so it's quite early. I read the first one when I was 7, which was Finn Family Moomintroll. We had a little book club at school where you could save up your pennies and buy your own puffin books. And I was trying to buy Comet in Moominland, which I knew was actually the first book that appeared in English. And I think my mother must have socked me a quid or something. And I got this puffin edition of a box set of the first 5, which I'm holding now, which are probably certainly the most read and probably the most loved 5 books I own, and they're definitely the most dog-eared. This box is really bursting at the seams.
That's beautiful, because that's such a mixture of being cherished and read.
Oh yes,
because it's all together.
Yeah, I mean,
I lost one.
No, I absolutely haven't lost one, and I think I probably just sort of devoured them then. I can't remember a time after that where I was ever really without them.
Gosh.
I used to reread them quite regularly, and I come to the ones that I read less often, like Moomin Papa at Sea, and still discover that lines from them that I've internalized or stuff, little bits. I go, oh God, that's it. Like the beginning of Moomin Papa at Sea, where the spark from the volcano drops onto the moss and starts to smoulder. And they go, Papa, Papa, there's a fire. And Moomin Papa, who's sort of having a midlife crisis, goes, right, let me help, I'm going to. And goes over, and it's a tiny little spark, and they've poured some water on it. And they say, no, it's fine. He said, no, don't, what do you mean it's fine? It could go on smouldering under the moss. So they go, oh, right then, okay. Well, you watch that then. And so they all go inside, and then somebody says, aren't you coming in for dinner? And Mama says, no, let Papa do what he needs to do. So he sits there watching this thing, which is clearly extinguished. And then he puts his pipe into it and blows on it, and it still goes out. And he spends hours there because he wants to be the hero. And I remember thinking, gosh, she really understands daddies. And now that I am a tired dad, I get Moomin Papa so much more than I did. But I remember that even when I was young, thinking, oh, she's met my dad. Yeah, she really knows him.
Can I just say, I was just thinking about these, all the different characters in Moominvalley and what their roles are in an authorial sense. And I think that the sort of Hemulins and the Filijonks, they're all part of the variety of life. You've got the sort of slightly obsessive collectors and the sort of fussy, neurotic character of the Filijonk. But they also help enormously in defining what a Moomin is. So the Filijonk's very fussy, neurotic. Moomins aren't fussy, neurotic. But you can't easily portray unfussiness and not being neurotic,
Yes.
not as quickly.
You can't prove a negative.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
The one I'm getting today is Moominmamma from the summer mug. It's called Rose Garden, and it's Moominmamma watering her roses. She's such a calm and beautiful and like really warm and accepting personality. Such a caregiver, and she knits as well, and I knit, so I have actually thought about getting the filifjonk as well, filifjonkan, because she kind of reminds me of my grandmother, because she's kind of anxious and she's always cleaning, and it's like, oh, it has to be like this. And I found that so endearing when I read the book, and I was like, oh my God, that's grandma. So I've been thinking about getting that one too, but I'm not sure. So I think probably this is my last Moomin tattoo, at least on my arm, on my Moomin arm. And I don't know, I thought about getting Snufkin, Snusmumriken, because he reminds me of my boyfriend, but you should never get couple tattoos, because that's like cursing the relationship. So I've chosen not to get, but I've seen some beautiful Snufkin tattoos. So sometimes I go scrolling through the hashtags on Instagram and watch them, and it's really cool.
Now let's travel to the heart of Europe, to Belgium and the city of Antwerp, where Sigrid Moomins, who is a photographer specialising in weddings, lives. She is a real Moomin fan and spends a lot of time commenting and posting Moomin stuff on social media. When we talk, she's sitting on an almost exact copy of Moomin Papa's chair. It looks a little bit crocky, a little bit unstable.
Yeah. Well, actually, my house is full. full. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little saving jar of Snufkin over there. Yeah, you cannot see it, but he's there always watching. I have lots of plushies. I have one that I sleep with, a little Moomin. When I travel, he goes with me. I have, you cannot see it, but there's a little wardrobe filled with Moomin mugs. I collect them. Well, not all of them, but the ones I like. Yeah, I've been a Moomin fan for like all of my life, I think. I saw them on TV one day when I was a little kid, and something was like, oh, wow, what's this? It's so weird. I love it. I like things that are weird. And I became a little bit addicted to the show. I started to watch it. And even as a kid, I would get up before everyone else, because it was broadcasted here very early in the morning. So I would get up before everyone else just to watch the Moomins. And they brought me a lot of comfort. I love it because I had a bit of a bad childhood. My parents would fight a lot, and I was also being bullied at school. And then you have this weird, happy family of Moomins, and they just accept everyone. Everyone can be there, even if you're weird, even if you're different. And that concept to me was so nice. I really felt like I had found a different home. So, like I said, it gave me comfort, because I didn't have a very nice childhood, and being able to flee into that world of weird adventures and this really great family that was always inviting everyone to be there, like when they took in Nini, the girl that becomes invisible. To me, that's such a beautiful story, because they really help you become, like, you can be yourself. And there's Moominmamma making you some tea, and there's Moomin Papa with his weird adventures. And I don't know, it felt like a safe place. And even when I grow older, every time I'm a little down or I feel a bit sad, I just think like, okay, I'm there in the valley, sitting with Moominmamma, drinking some tea, listening to Moomin Papa. And for me, that's so, it's my safe space. It's a space I can always go to when things in the real world aren't so good.
Hello there. Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. Hi there. If you like Moomin things, you'll like their blog. They have a lot of really awesome stuff about the Moomin franchise, including a lot of stuff that I didn't even know, and I have not slept for 5 weeks.
Nowadays, the Moomin fandom has grown to enormous proportions on social media. You can spend days and weeks checking out different homemade Moomin figurines. So Sigrid, explain, how is that?
When I was a little kid, there wasn't much to do with the Moomins online. Like there weren't many, like right now you have Facebook and there are so many Moomin groups on there. I love it. Like I'm in all of them, of course. And Instagram has lots of Moomin content. YouTube, people make videos. I actually made videos when I was a bit younger, like about the Moomins and stuff. When I was a little kid, all of that didn't exist. And in Belgium, they're not very well known. So I felt really alone. But now you can find them anywhere. Like I said, like on YouTube, there are so many fan-made videos. Like you can keep scrolling. It's amazing. I keep watching them and there's just too much. On TikTok also, you have people who dress up like Snufkin, for example, a lot of Snufkins, and they lip sync to songs. Or they lip sync to lines from the shows, which is really fun to watch. And the costumes are amazing. You also have Tumblr. Like if you do #Moomin, there's so much art and really fantastic art. Like people are really making beautiful things. Every day they are posting on Facebook about the Moomins, and I'm reading it, I'm commenting. It's really easy now to get connected to each other and talk about it. And I really love that. Because like I said, as a child, I didn't have that. I didn't know there were so many Moomin fans. And now I do.
So now we'll leave Antwerp and we're off to Japan. We're on the hunt for more Moomin fans. Moominvalley Park opened its gates in 2019 and is a remarkable place, located about an hour from Tokyo by train. While we wait for our train, we'll visit a Moomin-themed boutique inside Tokyo Station. It's one of many such shops in the capital. This one is squeezed in between a Lego store, a Disney store, a Ghibli-themed shop. The Moomin boutique is crawling with fans looking at Little My figurines, Moomin plush toys in every imaginable size, Moomin mugs, Moomin cutlery, Moomin everything. They have a hard time speaking English, and my Japanese isn't great either, but we'll still communicate well enough. So I need to ask, why do they like Moomin? And the first to answer is Harpo.
Why? Actually, his face and his body shape, that can't find out so much straight line, like or corner, so more like shapes like more round. It makes very relaxed people, I guess. So when I saw his face, it's over round face, I think that is good for me. And I think that's one reason.
The Moomin shop is quite crowded, and it has 2 screens displaying animated Moomin series from different decades. The first from the 70s and the second from the 90s. These 2 animated series have laid the foundation for the Moomin's popularity in Japan, and almost everyone I speak to tell me that they first discovered as children watching one of the shows. Nowadays, there is a third, more modern series. One I actually had a role in. I played Mimble. It wasn't created by a Japanese company, but it will certainly trigger Moomin madness for yet another generation of Japanese fans. Even if things slide into lost in translation territory, the Moomin fans manage to understand me when I ask, who is their favourite Moomin character?
Funny, very funny. Funny.
Okay, here's what I understand. Snufkin and the Hattie Fatteners are amusing. That much I did get. I also got that Snufkin is a bit of a sexy symbol, a sex symbol. Oh dear, but why not? But as the Moomin shop fills up with more people, I take a look around. I found a beautiful clock with layers of glass painted with different coloured flowers. Moomin is centred, bending over as if picking flowers. Despite its purpose, it gives me a feeling of timelessness. The timepiece is designed by Rika Kawato, one of Japan's most skilled designers, who has, among other things, specialised in designing Moomin products. At her core, she's a textile artist, and she creates new collections of Moomin-printed fabrics for the Japanese market every summer. We'll hear Rika speak of Tove Jansson and Moominvalley as her inspiration in a later episode. But for the moment, I think I'll ask her why Moomin is so incredibly popular in Japan.
The first reason that I think Japanese people like cute things, cute characters. So that's one reason. And also the round shape of Moomins are very lovable. And many characters in Japan are round, and that's one reason. And the other reason is the Scandinavian feeling it has. Japanese people love Scandinavian design. The transparency of colors and also atmosphere. You feel cleanliness, clean air, like quiet nature, and subtle colors. I think that's the second reason why Moomins are loved here. And I also talked about this with my mom, why she thinks Moomins are so popular in Japan. She's a Danish person. She said Little Me. Little Me is the most popular character in Japan. Little Me is popular because she's doing whatever she wants to do. And the women in Japan were suppressed for a long time. So people in her generation and also the children of that generation, they were a little bit suppressed. Like, you have to act like a girl. You can't do this. You can't do that. So we had to behave well. And Little Me wasn't anything like that. So I think she thinks that that's why Little Me is everybody's favorite character in Japan. So that might be one different thing. It's a little bit different now because girls can work. They can work even after they have babies, and that's very normal in Scandinavia. But girls are freer now, but it's still a little bit like that.
Arigato, Rika. It's time to catch our train now. We'll be taking the train headed for Hanno, located an hour's ride from Tokyo Station. It's truly a high contrast to the huge dimensions and metropolitan qualities of Tokyo. We arrive in lush green oasis where peace and quiet reigns. Before we can reach the park, we walk through a forest populated by thousands of blue, pink and red umbrellas hanging from what looks like an invisible ceiling. I don't know why, but something about the sight seems to reset any stress I have in my body. In the trees around me, there are small speakers playing specially designed Moomin music. Moominvalley Park was founded by Moomin Monogatari, represented by Robert Hurst in 2019, and it became a place of pilgrimage for fans from all over Japan. But its welcome isn't just restricted to human fans.
In the weekday, children are at school during the week, so during weekdays it tends to be people with very small children or young couples or groups of young women who take the day off. So it depends. And also, because there's this other part, the open part, quite a lot of people come here just to enjoy, they've been to the park before, they just come to the public area. because there are shops, there are restaurants, there are places where you can have coffee, you can sit by the lake, so it depends. One of the other things that we've done, which has been very, very popular, is allow people to bring their dogs. Because in Japan, there are very few places where you can take your dog, especially if it's a big dog. Well, you know, Japanese spend more money on their dogs than their children sometimes.
The park had over 1 million visitors in the first year, but then, unfortunately, had to close due to the COVID pandemic. Thankfully, though, the park has gradually reopened its gates in the years since. Upon arriving, guests first walk through Metsä village. Metsä means forest in Finnish, and it's a public area where people can come to relax, walk their dogs, read the newspaper, or just sit and enjoy the view of the lake. Metsä village is free for all to enter, and this area was developed with the people of Hanno in mind. So the decision was made not to charge anything for entry. Visitors can make the most of the lake by taking a canoe out onto the water, and they can even take part in a workshop where they can build their own canoe. But the big question here is, why is there a Moomin theme park in Japan to begin with? Robert Hurst is a businessman who's lived in Japan for almost 4 decades now, and one day in 2013, he received a call from one of his Finnish colleagues.
The first time was when a Finnish friend of mine, business colleague, said, "Would you have time to come and meet the Finnish ambassador?" And so I went with him to the Finnish embassy, met the then ambassador, and he explained that there was a Finnish company that had the rights to prepare a feasibility study for a Moomin theme park in Japan, but they were a local Finnish company, they needed a partner. Might this be of interest? I went back to FinTech and talked to the CEO, I was the chairman as I said, and he said, "Oh, Moomins, that's great, everybody likes the Moomins, let's do it." So that's how it began. And we spent a long time looking for a place. We didn't find it here immediately, but in fact, when we announced that we were looking to build a theme park, we got requests from all sorts of people. Come to us, we have the best place. We have something that's just like Finland. They associate Moomins with Nordic, Scandinavia, you know, cold winters and all that kind of thing. And so, anyway, this Hanno township had a long association with the Moomins from when Tove Jansson came to Japan many years ago, and they had created a small park kind of in her honor. And so they heard about the wanting to build a Moomin theme park. They said, we have the right place. But it was terrible because it was all overgrown, it was a wilderness, how we would do it. Anyway, this is what has emerged. So this is the entrance to the theme park itself.
As I leave the umbrella forest behind, I see that there's a show being put on a large stage where people are being encouraged to come and dance with Little My, Moomin and Snufkin. A little bit too energetic for me. I'll just slip on by. Even Stinky is tearing through the audience, trying to encourage people to dance.
The show's title is Dance, Dance with Moomins. So it's a means of getting everybody to exercise, because one of the fundamental core values of this is well-being. You know, we want people to be to come here and enjoy outside, enjoy the open air, look at flowers, feel relaxed, feel refreshed, and getting them to move about a bit is one of the objectives.
The park guests are few in the beginning, but the crowds grow bigger as the steady stream of people exit the umbrella path. Continuing to walk on through, for all intents and purposes, Moominvalley, a bit farther away I can spot the iconic cornflower blue cylinder, the Moomin House. And behind that is a large concrete structure housing a museum and a restaurant. And on the other side is a large cinema showing different Moomin adventures. There's playgrounds, a lighthouse, a funicular railway, and just loads of adorable little houses. A guide describes what we're looking at, while Robert translates for me.
So this is all decked out like, Moomin house taken from the Tove Jansson drawings and the paintings, and we've tried to reproduce that atmosphere.
階がムーミン屋敷のリビングとムーミンパパとママの寝室があるお部屋です。
So this is the living room and Moominmamma and Moomin Papa's bedroom.
ムーミンママの好きなバラ柄がすごい使われているお部屋になります。
Moominmamma likes roses, and so there's lots of rose features in this room.
でお隣がムーミンのお部屋です。
This is Moomin's bedroom, Moomintroll's bedroom.
黄色と白のしましまが彼女の水着です。
Oh, I see. So that's his girlfriend, Snort Maiden. That's her bathing costume that's drying. 一緒に寝ないって聞いてますからね。
そう寝ないですよ。
それちょっと、ダメなの。
でここに下がってもらって上を見上げるとこの辺りまで来て上。
Okay, so there's a discussion about whether Moomin and Snork Maiden shared a bed. Well, perhaps your own imagination can decide that. Officially, of course, they're just close friends. So let's go back to Sigrid for a moment. In the Moomin fans communities on social media, there is an ongoing dialogue about whether Moomintroll and Snufkin are actually more than just friends.
Snufkin! 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 Snufkin. Today's the day. I know it is. Moomintroll. Hello, Snufkin. Lovely day for it.
Yeah, Snufkin and Moomin, I do think they kind of like each other a bit because actually Tove based Moomin on herself and Snufkin was based on her, fiancé for a while. She didn't marry him, but it was Athos Virtane, he was called. So, yeah, I do understand that she put some of herself in the books. And I think it's very recognizable that they do like each other. And in the new series, they also play with it. They struggle, especially, Moomin is very, Snufkin, I don't want to miss you. And Snufkin is really struggling with, I want to be alone, but I also want to be with Moomin. So I think you can totally do with that what you like. Everything in the Moomins is like that. If you don't want to see it like that, that's fine. If you want to see it like that, that's fine. For me, they are a little bit in love. But, it's all... You can do with it whatever you like, and it's all just fine.
And now we're back in Moominvalley Park with Robert. Now, Robert, why do you think that Moomin appeals so much to the Japanese?
I think it appeals to the Japanese because the Moomins, they have this kind of family discipline. They're a happy family. The Japanese value family life, and I think they don't fight. It's a pleasant, relaxing sort of environment. They have adventures, they go on picnics, but the adventures, they might be exciting, but they always have a happy ending. So I think the Japanese like that. They find, and funnily enough, a lot of Asians who come here assume the Moomins were from Japan. So it does. I don't know why, because the Japanese like the Moomins better than any other country. They are the most. It's the country where the Moomins are the most popular, outside Finland. Most Japanese know they're from Finland. Some Japanese get it wrong and think they're from Sweden or Norway, but I think most know that it's Finland.
As well as watching and experiencing the Moominvalley itself, it's fun to see visitors who come fully dressed as Little Mai, Snufkin or Filionk, or sometimes they don't. They just look completely normal until you look behind them and there's a little Moomin tail just sticking out. Now, after several hours in all kinds of Moomin-themed structures, I finally found two Japanese park visitors who speak English. Their names are Honoka and Ichika.
Because we are the teacher, and we plan to come here for the school trip. So we just see around and check the places, how fun it is and how dangerous it is and where the toilets are. Senior high school. Yes, high school. Why Moomin? because we are in Tokyo. We have the schools in Tokyo, and they're kind of like really urban boys and girls, so they're not really familiar with natures. So maybe this is a good time to feel the nature and enjoy the nature. どうやってムーミンしたかでも結構有名ですよね。I don't know, but it's kind of famous in Japan. Moomin is famous, and we know it when we were really small, like age 3, 4. We know it since we are very young. どうですか? I do like.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's cute. The form, the picture is cute. We bought it last time. I have a T-shirt with, how do you call this calculator in hat-nut? Hat-nut. T-shirt with hat-nut. And I bought some souvenirs, like rice crackers and pens, 何買いました? And towels. Yeah, like that. Okay, anyway, we have to go. Thank you.
And what is a museum or a theme park without a gift shop? I sometimes think the gift shop's the best bit. Moominvalley Park, of course, has its very own Moomin shop. This shop sells an exclusive and true rarity that is coveted by many Moomin fans, a specially designed Moominvalley Park mug. Now, I wouldn't waste any time. I'm going to have one of those because I've noticed on eBay they sell for more than you buy them for. This is a good investment. Arigatou gozaimasu. Time to leave Japan for now, and we'll return in future episodes, of course. But now let's pack our bags and get back to Europe, back to Helsinki specifically, the capital of Finland and arguably the epicenter of Moomin. We're going to be diving headfirst into the Moomin mug subculture. Because it is just that, a subculture, housing a whole buying-selling market, coffee-drinking minutiae and different rituals. In 1958, Tove Jansson wrote the script and designed costumes for a legendary Moomin play on the stage of Lilla Teatern. Translated from Swedish to English, is the Little Theatre. That's also the place where I meet the director, Jakob Höglund, who is now, 64 years later, putting on a new Moomin play. He comes prepared with a cup of coffee, in a Moomin mug, of course.
Since I was 10, when they started to make the Moomin mugs, my mother bought the first one to me, and since that she has never stopped. So always when I have birthday and when it's Christmas and when I have a premiere, she brings the latest ones, and soon there are not room in my shelves anymore. In my everyday life, of course, Moomin is with me in the morning when I drink my coffee, and as for many, many others nowadays, drinking coffee in Finland and also in other countries. But that is one very strong memory when she bought the first one, and I was very fond of that one, and I still use the first ones for my everyday life. The other ones are not so important, but I'm very fond of the old ones. They are very beautiful. I always think of my mother and our relationship, and I think from the cups, from the mugs, I think those helped me to find other stuff and read more about Moomin.
Malin Tjärnström's third Moomin tattoo is now done, and it's time for some coffee in a Moomin mug. And it was actually through the Moomin mugs that Malin found herself discovering the Moomin books. That seems the wrong way round.
We were going to Haparanda, which is a city right on the border to Finland. It's actually kind of split by the border. And we were going there, and a friend of mine had said that, you know what, the mugs are cheaper in Finland. And I had finally found a design that I thought was cute, because I really didn't like them. Maybe I saw some of the seasonal mugs and thought they were cute. So before that, I only had the Hattie Fatteners, because I was like, that's the only one I think is cute. And then new Snork Maiden came either that year or the year before. This was 2015, I think. And I thought she was so cute doing her makeup. So I was like, I'm going to buy that one. And then it just snowballed. I think I have at least 50 mugs. So anyway, when I started collecting, I was curious about the books as well. So I started reading some of the books. And I think a big misconception is that it's children's books. And yeah, they can be appreciated by children too, but some of them are really tackling some complex subjects in it's a fun way, and she has such a beautiful way of describing things. So I enjoy that, and I enjoy the nerdiness. I'm a big nerd with everything. What I love to do with my mugs is when people come to me for coffee and they say, yeah, let's drink out of a Moomin mug, I like to choose from their personality. So when my mom and dad come, they get Moomin Papa and Moominmamma. And when my mother-in-law comes, she gets Mimble's mom, because she has more children. And she has one more child than my mom, so I'm like, yeah, you get that, mom. She doesn't have as many as Mimble's mom, but so yeah, I like to pair them up, and it's kind of fun to explain to people. You know what? You're a sassy little thing. You get a little me. So that's fun.
But what are the Moomin stories actually about? And can we find some deeper meaning in them? That's what we'll be finding out in the next episode of the podcast, when we'll be looking at Moomin philosophy. There are actually people who claim that the whole point of Moomin is its inherent theory of thought. We'll be hearing from professors, philosophers, writers, and many others about what they mean when they talk about Moomin as philosophy. I'm your eminent host, Jennifer Saunders, and I invite you to continue with us on this podcast journey into Moominvalley.
Yeah, so I remember there, like, Tutik is saying things like everything is so uncertain, and exactly that is what makes me feel so reassured. And then I had to read it again, and I understood that in the passage they are actually wondering just the Northern Lights, and they're thinking, how are they, the Northern Lights? Like, do we only see them, or in which sense do they exist? And all of these are very big, like, eternal philosophical questions, like, how is something like light? Is it something that we can touch, or how is it in this world, and how do we experience that? And there were so many different passages that I just had to stop and read again, and like, okay, these are very big, deep thoughts.
Moomin Summer Madness, it begins with Moominmamma is making the bark boat, and Moomin is lying, looking very sort of slightly melancholic. It's a very contemplative look, lying on a mossy bank, looking into a pond. And it's he thinks he's wondering whether Moominmamma has made him a little dinghy for his bark boat. But the image of that, you can absolutely see in the image that this isn't someone just wondering what's going to happen. This is someone who's a little bit sad, but doesn't know that they're sad. You discover at the end, that only at the end, that he's missing Snufkin. You think you're worried and upset about one thing, and discover it's something much deeper.
This podcast series has been created by the production company Soundtelling on behalf of Moomin characters. Produced by Antonio de la Cruz and Melody Loveland. Executive producer is Tove Jansson. Audio technician is Gustav Sondén.